Hello, dancers. So today we're going to be going over 3 common mistakes that I see when we practice releve, which is really just lifting onto the balls of your feet. And the balls of your feet are this area of your foot. And okay, they're not nasty. I was like, did I just show you my foot and it's dirty? If it happened. So, okay. So releve we use in many forms of dance. It's not just Raqs Sharqi is all dance forms where we're really lifting onto the balls of the feet and then having to sustain that movement over a period of time or coming in and then coming out. So the 3 common mistakes that I really see among belly dancers are having to do with weight placement, where their foot alignment is, and then just not understanding what happens in the body when they get into releve. So we're going to break that down and then talk about that. So the first common mistake that I see is that when we go up into releve, which I would highly recommend when you go up, being able to go up when your feet are facing straight forward, as well as with a very gentle turnout. When we dance, we use our feet facing straight forward as well as turned out, depending on the technique that we're doing. So for example, I may be here and I may just lift myself into releve, do a quick little knee shimmy, and then I may come back down, right? So I can have my feet facing forward for that. That's totally fine. Where I would want it in releve, and just so you understand a little bit of why it makes a difference, where I would want it in releve is if I'm crossing over my feet. So if I have this open cross movement here, what ends up happening is if I stay with my feet facing forward like this, I end up knocking my knees and I can't get some of the movement that I really want to. So for example, if I took that same movement with shimmy, and I went straight up and my feet are side by side and my feet are facing forward, I can execute the movement. However, if I placed one foot in front of the other like this and I go up into releve, my knees will hit. But the minute I gently offer my legs a turnout, what happens? They clear each other. So when we're doing this exercise here, just know that you're going to have to go back and practice this balance and this shifting of your alignment with your feet forward as well as just turned out. So that's why I can't just say, just do this one, just do that one. Okay, there's many reasons. So when we first come into releve, which is that lift, right? You're lifting up onto the balls of the feet. What ends up happening is this. And then we get this shaking motion back and forth. So I want you to just kind of take a look and see, this is where my weight currently is. And then when I come up, I'm right here, right? So if you notice, my feet are doing this. I'm putting my weight on the outside of my foot. It's not the strongest placement for your weight to be because of multiple reasons. One, if you, oh gosh, what's the word? I think it's supinate. Don't quote me on that. But you roll out, right? We've all probably, most of us have done it where you've rolled your ankle and it hurts like a bitch, right? You're just walking, you're like, "Fa!" And you roll your ankle. Well, what is that happening? It's because, why is that happening? Is a lot of the time it's because our weight is placed towards the pinky toe versus being towards the big toe. And the big toe is big for a reason, right? Your balance should really be between your big toe and your third toe. And it should feel like the alignment runs through like the arch to those toes. So when you have this curve in your ankles like this, what ends up happening is, one, you're putting a lot of pressure in the wrong places in your body to kind of sustain that movement. One, you're going to get the shaky feeling because you can't sustain it. You'll fall over, fall forward, all of that kind of stuff. But what happens is you're more likely to also roll your ankles. So just imagine, I'm just standing here, but what if I try and dance and I start dancing like this? I'm more prone to injury. So this is why I think this is the very first one I want you all to focus on, is that as you raise your heels up, you're really concentrating your feet more towards the in part of your foot in that pronate, right? This does not apply for people who have collapsed arches or people who have flatter feet, because you all are already like this. So you're going to still adjust, but you're going to adjust towards your pinky toe to make sure that the knee, the ankle, and the big toe to the third toe are all in alignment. Not like this in releve and not like this. So there's going to feel like there's a straight line. So you have to really look at your feet and just kind of feel the ground and understand where that weight placement falls as you come up. You're going to know when you hit that moment of balance when there's stillness in your feet, meaning they're not shaking, trying to find where is the safest place for my feet to be right now to hold my body up. So when you come up, you're going to notice, are my ankles in alignment? Are they with my knees as well as with my feet, right? My toes. So depending on if you have a fallen arch or flat feet, you might be here. If you roll out towards the pinky toe, you might be here. What you're looking for is that balance where your feet fall in the middle between the big toe and the middle toe. Okay, that's really important. So that's common mistake number one, is that we're just not in proper alignment, which is a lot of the reason why we can't have good technique here, because your body's still trying to feel safe in the feet. And so it's too busy trying to protect your body from falling. And then you just feel unstable that you legit just fall. Okay, so that's first common mistake. The second common mistake that I see is that you're not honoring your body where it's at today. Meaning, a lot of the time when we're doing this movement, especially if you don't have the first common mistake I just mentioned in place, we tend to go higher than we're prepared to go. Meaning, if I'm just starting out as a beginning dancer, I do not want to start trying to dance all my shit up here with my heels raised like I'm in a platform heels, right? It just doesn't make sense. So you want to honor and figure out where is my moment of instability as you kind of step up the ladder with your releve. So you got to start with the floating heel. And so what happens is you just literally lift the heels off the ground, so it feels like they graze the tap, but they're mobile, right? So when I say that, a lot of the time we'll turn with just a flatter foot and then just the heel grazing and floating above the ground, just above the ground, versus always feeling like you need to be up here and then turning into that, right? So we just don't want that to happen, because what will end up happening is that you fall over, you feel instability, or you hurt your ankle and it's too sore for you even to move and you're not sure how to take care of it. So you're gonna start with these right here and then slowly go up. But you gotta meet yourself halfway, right? You wanna be in a place where you feel comfortable, but you then have to challenge yourself to go up to that next level, find where your moment of stability is and where everything is still and not shaking. But you got to start off here, then here, then here, then here, and here, and here, here, and then slowly go up from there, because that's going to be really, really important. Okay, so that's the second common mistake that I see, is that people try and shoot for the very top and just not recognize like it's going to take some time for you to get there, and that's okay. That's just part of the process. Okay. The third common mistake that I see is that we're just not understanding where the weight placement is when we get into releve. So when we are flat-footed, much of the time we are over our arch and our heel. We're back here, right? So I could lift and I'm not feeling like it's a challenge to kind of lift right here. There's this, like I'm leaning, like I'm standing against the wall, right? But just know that your ass may be pushing your back away from the wall, so don't try and lean to see if this is where your weight placement is, because your ass will be in the way. So, but you're going to imagine that you're up against a wall here versus I'm leaning away from the wall. It's not all the time that our weight placement is here when we're flat-footed, but a lot of the time it is. So you're here, right? Weight is typically between the arch and the heel, and you feel really stable. The other place that you may be with your weight before you get into releve is that maybe all four corners of your feet are just like to the ground, meaning the weight is evenly distributed between the heel to the toe. So you're not far back like this, and you're not like leaning forward to where your heels naturally come off the ground, okay? So you might be in between that moment as well. So I'm being pretty intent about letting you know that, because if we don't understand where our weight placement is, you're not going to know how to shift it into the next position, right? So it's always about where am I coming from and where do I need to go? So when you're here, when we do releve, the next common mistake I see is that people try and still hang back. Remember that leaning against the wall feeling, or that like everything's back against the wall? They still try and hang back here. But what ends up happening is you just end up rocking back onto your heels. Because when you put yourself into releve or start shifting, the weight of your entire body, not just this, the weight of your entire body now shifts forward. You see how I'm kind of like in a plank position? I'm holding my position. And then from here, then I can lift up because now your center of gravity has shifted. You can't put your weight on your heels when everything's being balanced on the balls of your feet. That being said, if you countered your balance in some way, maybe you could achieve it. But for this purpose, just know you're shifting your weight from here into the balls of your feet, and then you slowly do the lift. Remember, we were talking about number 1 and number 2, and then you slowly come up, and you'll notice the higher you go, the less that you'll probably feel like there's this like feeling of like you're leaning forward, right? I feel like a lot of my students are like, am I leaning forward? Not necessarily leaning forward, but you're going to feel like your energy and your weight is more forward than where it was. Does that make sense? It's not that you're leaning forward, it just feels more forward relative to where you just were. So when you're pushing it forward like this, right, and you're coming forward, when you just float the heel, you can only go so high, right? But then you'll notice the tendency is to go here and then go up here and lean forward. So as you shift and you're floating here, you'll notice you'll be able to come up higher because then everything is more stacked and the heels aren't behind your body, right? So let's go over these 3 again. 1, find that positioning and alignment over big toe to third toe with your knees and your ankles in a straight line. 2, know where you're at today, so that way when you do lift up, you're not like trying to go to level 4 and you're like, no, I'm really at level 1 and I need to work myself up to level 4. And then the third common mistake I see is just not understanding how the weight shifts as we go from a flat-footed position into releve. So as you're back here, knowing that you're going to feel like this at first, and then you're going to come up and then straighten back out a little bit, okay? Well done, everybody. Let me know what you think about this video. I hope that this helps in doing the 1-minute drill that we just released, and I hope you have a beautiful day and stay safe dancing.